The sky above the mining colony of Hanyul 9 was always gray. Dust storms rolled across the barren plains, coating everything in a dull brown layer. Life here was hard. People worked long hours just to survive, and no one ever expected good news. So, when Ji-hwan received a message saying his estranged uncle had died and left him an inheritance, he didn't know how to feel. He barely remembered the man, a xenobiologist who had spent most of his life in remote star systems. Still, the word inheritance gave Ji-hwan a little hope. Maybe his uncle had left him credits, maybe land, something that could help him escape this dying rock. The hope didn't last long. When Ji-hwan reached the small shuttle bay, a security officer led him to a sealed crate. Inside was not wealth or land deeds. It was a creature. It looked like a tiny dragon, its body pale like bleached bone. Its wings were thin and translucent, and its glowing lavender eyes stared up at him with a strange, almost human fear. But its most disturbing feature was the barnacles. Millions of them. They covered its fragile body like a living crust. Some of them twitched, some pulsed. Ji-hwan felt his stomach twist as he saw tiny tendrils moving beneath the creature's skin. "What is this?" Ji-hwan whispered. The officer gave a nervous laugh. "That thing is a curse. It's an albino ashen dragon. The last one alive. People say they spread disease, death, and destruction. We should burn it before the parasites spread." The baby dragon whimpered softly, as if it understood. Ji-1 looked around. The crowd of workers at the dock was already backing away. He could hear the whispers. "That's the creature that killed colonies. They say its barnacles eat people from the inside. Get rid of it before it curses us all." One of the councilmen stepped forward, his voice cold. "Ji, you can refuse this inheritance. We'll take care of the creature and destroy it for everyone's safety. You don't want its burden." Ji-hwan looked down again. The little dragon was trembling. Its lavender eyes locked onto his, and for a moment, Ji-hwan thought he felt something like a faint voice at the edge of his mind. "Please don't let them kill me." He blinked. Was he imagining it? The councilman was waiting for an answer. Ji-hwan swallowed. His heart was racing. He didn't know why, but he felt a strange pull toward the creature. Everyone else wanted it dead, but what if they were wrong? "No," Ji-hwan said quietly. The crowd gasped. "I'll take it," he said louder, his voice shaking but firm. "It's mine. I'll care for it." The councilman's face darkened. "Ji-hwan, this is foolish. If you keep that thing, you'll be banned from bringing it into public areas. And if it spreads infection, then I'll handle it," Ji-hwan interrupted. "It's my responsibility." He lifted the creature from the crate. It was lighter than he expected, almost weightless. He could feel the barnacles twitching against his hands, but he held it close. The baby dragon made a weak chirping sound, curling into his chest. As Ji-hwan walked back to his quarters, he could feel the colony's eyes on him. The whispers grew louder. People stepped aside as if he was carrying a plague. Dahi, his childhood friend, waited at the corner of the corridor. Her expression was pale with fear. "Ji-hwan, what have you done?" "I don't know," he admitted. She stared at the small creature in his arms. "You have to get rid of it, please. This thing is dangerous. The barnacles, if they get into the colony's air systems." "I can't," Ji-hwan said. He didn't know how to explain it, but he knew he couldn't abandon it. "It's scared, Dahi. Look at it. Everyone wants to kill it." "I just can't." Dahi shook her head and backed away. "You're going to regret this. And when you do, it might be too late." Ji-hwan didn't answer. He slipped into his workshop, locked the door, and sat on the floor with the dragon. The creature made a soft sound, curling its long tail around his wrist. "I guess it's just you and me now," Ji-hwan whispered. He didn't know what this creature really was. He didn't know why his uncle had left it to him, but deep inside, Ji-hwan felt that this was not a curse. It was something far greater. As he stroked the dragon's fragile head, the barnacles moved again, shifting as though they were alive. Ji-hwan shivered. He would have to find out what they were. He didn't see the shadow outside the workshop window. Someone had followed him back and now watched silently. A faint light blinking on their communicator, and in a distant sector of the galaxy, the Vurathi warships began to move. The workshop smelled like metal and dust. Ji-hwan worked late into the night, trying to understand the strange creature he had inherited. The albino dragon Baekryong, he had decided to call Itle, curled on a blanket near his workbench. Its thin chest rose and fell weakly, the barnacles on its pale body twitching from time to time like living sores. Ji-hwan cleaned his hands and sat beside it. "You're not eating," he whispered. "I don't even know what you eat." Baekryong. Lavender eyes flickered open, amid a soft whimpering noise, pressing its head against his hand. Ji-hwan felt a strange warmth crawl up his arm, like an emotion that wasn't his own. Thank you. The word wasn't spoken aloud, but Ji-hwan heard it in his mind. He jerked his hand back, startled. Baekryong tilted its head as if confused. Was that you? Ji-hwan asked. The dragon didn't answer, but it didn't need to. Ji-hwan felt a faint pulse inside his head again. It was weak, like an echo, but it was there. He leaned closer. I don't know what's happening to you, he said softly, but I'm not going to let anyone hurt you. The barnacles moved suddenly, almost in response to his words. Ji-hwan flinched. One of them had grown too large, and it began to split open. He grabbed a sterilized blade and carefully cut it away from the dragon's skin. A thick black fluid spilled onto the floor, releasing a bitter smell. Baekryong hissed in pain, and Ji-hwan's chest tightened. I'm sorry, he muttered, removing another swollen barnacle. He could see raw flesh underneath. These things weren't just living on Baekryong, they were killing it. Hours passed as he worked. His hands trembled from exhaustion, but he managed to clear away dozens of parasites. He wrapped Baekryong in a cloth and wiped the sweat from his face. Dahi arrived quietly. She hesitated at the door before stepping in. I thought you'd be asleep, she said softly. Ji-hwan gave a weak smile. No chance of that, I think. Baekryong's barnacles are killing it. I have to keep removing them. Dahi stepped closer, her eyes full of fear. Ji-hwan, you can't keep doing this. If one of those parasites infects you, it already almost did. Ji-hwan interrupted. He rolled up his sleeve, showing her a bandage on his wrist. But Baekryong saved me. It healed me somehow. If I had died, I wouldn't be standing here. Dahi stared at him. You're saying that thing saved your life? Yes. She looked at the small dragon again. Baekryong stirred under the cloth and opened its glowing eyes. For a moment, Dahi felt the same faint presence Ji-hwan had described. It wasn't a monster. It was scared. She bit her lip and nodded. Okay, I'll help you. Ji-hwan exhaled in relief. Thank you. They worked together for days, removing barnacles and nursing Baekryong with whatever food and water it could take. Slowly, the dragon began to gain strength. Its wings were still fragile, but it could now lift its head and move across the workshop. But trouble was building outside. Whispers spread through the colony that Ji-hwan was hiding the creature. The council grew restless. One night, Ji-hwan found a warning carved into his workshop door. Get rid of IT, or we will. That same night, Dahi showed him a recording she had stolen from a council meeting. The colony had sent a message to a group of off-world mercenaries. They were offering a bounty for anyone who could capture or kill Baekryong. They think it's dangerous, Dahi said. They think it'll bring the Vurathi here. Ji frowned. The Vurathi? They're moving through nearby sectors, attacking colonies, Dahi said. And there's something else. Your uncle's research mentioned that Baekryong's species was hunted by the Vurathi. If they find out it's alive, they'll come for it. Ji-hwan finished. At that moment, Baekryong raised its head. Ji-hwan felt the faint voice again, stronger now. They are coming. A chill ran down his spine. He looked at Dahi. We have to leave this colony. If we stay, the council will kill Baekryong, and the Vurathi might destroy everything. Dahi hesitated. Where will we go? We don't even have a ship. Ji-hwan looked at the old mining tunnels that stretched beneath the colony. I have an idea. He didn't tell her the whole plan yet, but as he packed his tools and food supplies, he knew one thing for certain. They had to protect Baekryong at all costs. Outside, unseen by either of them, a shadowy figure pressed a communicator to his lips. He's moving soon, the voice whispered. Prepare to burn the workshop. The air in the mining tunnels was thick with dust. Ji-hwan led the way with a small lamp. Dahi close behind him, clutching Baekryong to her chest. The baby dragon was wrapped in cloth to keep it warm, but its lavender eyes glowed faintly through the fabric. The colony above them was no longer safe. Ji-hwan had heard the mob gathering outside the workshop, demanding that he surrender. Then came the explosion. The council had sent men to burn the place down, but Ji-hwan and Dahi had escaped through the tunnels, seconds before the fire spread. We can't go back, Dahi whispered, her voice trembling. I know, Ji-hwan said. He gripped the lamp tighter. We'll head for the old starport. There's a ship there I can fix. Dahi looked uncertain. That place has been abandoned for years. Can you even make it work? I'll try, Ji-hwan said. It's our only chance. Baekryong stirred in Dahi's arms. Ji-hwan felt the faint voice in his mind again. Clearer now. They are close. They want me. Ji-hwan slowed. What do you mean? Baekryong gave a soft chirp, and the barnacles on its body began to glow faintly. Ji-hwan could feel a low hum vibrating through the tunnels. They know where we are. He whispered. Before Ji-hwan could answer, the ground shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. Far behind them, a deep roar echoed through the tunnels. Ji-hwan knew it wasn't human. The Vurathi, he said grimly. They're here. He gasped. But how? They must have tracked Baekryong's presence, Ji-hwan said. We have to keep moving. They ran through the tunnels as the roar grew louder. Ji-hwan could feel the vibrations through his boots. The Vurathi were relentless hunters, and they were closing in fast. When they reached a wide cavern, Ji-hwan stopped and looked around. The ceiling was low, and the walls were lined with sharp rocks. It would be easy to trap themselves if they weren't careful. We're running out of time, he said, holding Baekryong tighter. Ji-hwan thought quickly. He spotted a pile of old mining explosives in a corner, left behind years ago when the colony had abandoned the tunnels. I'm going to set a trap, he said. You take Baekryong and head for the starport. He shook her head. No, I'm not leaving you here. Please, Ji-hwan said. If they catch Baekryong, it's over. We have to protect him. You're faster. I'll delay them and catch up. She hesitated, tears in her eyes. You'd better catch up, she whispered. Ji-hwan nodded and handed her the lamp. Go. Follow the red markings on the walls. They'll lead you to the starport. He ran into the dark tunnel, Baekryong's glow fading with her. Ji-hwan turned back to the explosives, his hands shaking as he armed them. The sound of claws scraping stone echoed through the cavern. Then he saw them. The Vurathi. They were tall, insect-like creatures with armored black shells and glowing red eyes. Their mandibles clicked as they crawled into the cavern, sniffing the air. Ji-hwan could feel their hunger. He armed the last explosive and backed toward a narrow crevice in the rocks. The Vurathi hissed when they saw him, surging forward. Ji-hwan grabbed a metal pipe and swung it at the first one that lunged at him. The impact barely slowed it down. Come on, he shouted, his voice shaking. Come and get me. The Vurathi swarmed. Ji-hwan retreated deeper into the crevice, leading them straight toward the explosives. He could see the detonator light blinking faintly in the dust. At that moment, Baekryong's voice filled his head. Don't die. Ji-hwan closed his eyes. I'll try, he whispered. The first Vurathi lunged at him, claws outstretched. Ji-hwan pressed the detonator. The explosion tore through the cavern, a deafening blast of heat and stone. Ji-hwan was thrown against the wall, the air knocked out of his lungs. He felt blood in his mouth as he forced himself to crawl toward the exit. He could barely move. The cavern was collapsing around him, rocks crashing down like thunder. Through the dust and fire, Ji-hwan heard Baekryong's faint cry in his mind again. Find me. He pulled himself forward, inch by inch, as the tunnel behind him sealed with falling debris. Somewhere ahead, he and Baekryong were waiting. Ji-hwan had to reach them. He didn't see the shadow that broke away from the rocks ahead. One of the Vurathi had survived the blast, and it was hunting him alone now. The tunnel was almost completely collapsed. Ji-hwan dragged himself forward through the tight space, his arms trembling and blood dripping from a cut on his forehead. Every breath felt heavy. He could hear the faint sound of Baekryong's voice, echoing in his head, calling to him. Find me. Ji-hwan gritted his teeth. I'm coming, he whispered. But he wasn't alone. Behind him, the sound of claws scraped against the stone. The surviving Vurathi moved with terrifying speed. Ji-hwan could hear its low, clicking growl as it closed in on him. He reached the end of the crevice and pulled himself into a wider tunnel, gasping for air. He grabbed a jagged rock and waited, back pressed against the wall. When the Vurathi appeared, its glowing red eyes fixed on him like burning coals. Come on, Ji-hwan muttered. The creature lunged. Ji-hwan swung the rock with all his strength, striking its head. It screeched in pain but didn't stop. Its claw tore into Ji-hwan's shoulder, knocking him to the ground. Pain exploded through his body. The Vurathi raised its claws for the final strike, and then the tunnel shook. A blinding light filled the darkness as a powerful wave of energy ripped through the stone walls. The Vurathi froze, screeching in confusion. Ji-hwan lifted his head weakly. At the end of the tunnel, a silhouette appeared. Baekryong. But it was no longer the fragile albino baby dragon he had carried. Baekryong's body glowed with a radiant, white light, its wings now strong and vast, lined with streams of energy. The barnacles that had once covered its body were gone. In their place was a living armor that shimmered like crystal. Ji-hwan's breath caught. Baekryong the dragon roared, and the sound shook the tunnel like thunder. The Vurathi turned toward it, but Baekryong was faster. With a surge of energy, it launched forward, slamming into the creature with its armored body. The Vurathi was torn apart in a single strike. Ji-hwan shielded his face from the light and debris. When he looked up, Baekryong was standing over him, wings spread wide. "You are safe now," the voice echoed in his mind. Ji-hwan's vision blurred. I thought I lost you," he whispered. Baekryong lowered its head, its lavender eyes glowing softly. It touched Ji-hwan's chest with the tip of its snout, and a surge of warmth spread through his body. The pain in his shoulder faded, as his wounds closed. "We are bound now," Baekryong said. "Your strength is my strength." Ji-hwan slowly got to his feet. "Dahi," he said suddenly. "Where is she?" Baekryong turned and began moving through the tunnel. Ji-hwan followed as fast as his legs would carry him. The tunnel opened up into the ruins of the old port. Dahi was there, standing on a broken platform with tears in her eyes. "Ji-hwan," she shouted, running toward him. He embraced her tightly. "I made it," he whispered. Her gaze shifted past him, and she gasped when she saw Baekryong in its true form. It's him," Ji-hwan said. "He's not weak anymore." Before Dahi could reply, the ground trembled. Dozens of Vurathi warships appeared in the sky above the stockport, their weapons glowing red. "They're here," Dahi said, her voice shaking. Ji-hwan stepped forward, gripping Baekryong's wing. "We're not running anymore." Baek lifted its head and roared, its wings unfurling with a blast of light. The armor covering its body shifted, releasing shards of energy that floated like a swarm of blades. The Vurathi opened fire. Baekryong's swarm intercepted the blasts, shattering the enemy weapons midair. Then the dragon leapt into the sky, its body glowing brighter than the sun. Ji-hwan and Dahi watched in awe as Baekryong tore through the Vurathi fleet. It moved like a living storm, ripping warships apart with its claws and wings. The swarm of energy shards pierced through the enemy hulls, destroying them one by one. The remaining Vurathi tried to retreat, but Baekryong unleashed a final pulse of energy that swept across the sky. The enemy fleet disintegrated in a blinding wave of light. Silence filled the starport. Ji-hwan fell to his knees, unable to believe what he had just witnessed. Baekryong descended slowly, landing before him. The dragon lowered its massive head, until its glowing eyes met Ji-hwan's. "We are free now," it said softly. Ji-hwan placed his hand on Baekryong's armored snout. "No," he whispered. "We're not just free, we're the future." Dahi stepped beside him, her face still pale with shock. "What now?" she asked. Ji-hwan looked up at the stars. "We leave this place. We find others like Baek. We rebuild what humanity destroyed." Baekryong spread its wings again, a radiant beacon in the darkness. Ji-hwan and Dahi climbed onto its back, holding tight as it leapt into the sky. The colony of Hanyul 9 watched from below as the albino dragon soared higher and higher, glowing brighter than any star. Humanity had feared Baekryong as a curse, but now, as it carried Ji-hwan and Dahi toward the galaxy beyond, they would learn the truth. The dragon was not a curse, that it was hope.